A little spin there. Okay. Welcome, Drink with James, episode 129. This is the holiday edition. I know usually when we do a special edition Drink with James, we've got a backdrop, we've got a lot of other things, but it's the end of the year, budgets are tight. This is the most that we could do with the money that we had left. So, holiday edition Drink with James. I'm gonna just be playing with this the whole time. Also, you guys failed me. I don't ask for much. I said, let's get Tim to 1,000 followers. We got close. He did 12% growth in a day. Now, maybe by the time this goes live, he will have gotten the extra 49 followers that he needs to get to 1,000. But if you're watching this and you said to yourself, I was supposed to follow Tim and I didn't, you still have a chance to redeem yourself before the holidays. So, do that. What else? We had our whiskey giveaway. The winner was Sarah Toyao. It was purely random, but she had a great comment. We've actually worked with Sarah before. So Brandon says hi. Congratulations on winning a $20 bottle of whiskey. I know, we are very generous. You are welcome. Speaking of whiskey, Nicole, I don't remember your last name, but sent me a whiskey, sent me this whiskey, lovely. Very nice. Also sent me her book, which is impressive. I don't have a book, but I have a bottle of whiskey now, so thank you, Sarah. And I have your book. By Sarah, I mean Nicole. I was talking about listen, there's a lot of names there. This is the last episode of the year. We're closing it out, right?
Yeah.
Last episode of the year. We've done 48 this year. Let me just get this a little more out of the way. So for all of you that followed along, that watched, that shared it on Insta stories, that told your friends, that told your mothers and your fathers and every person you know, thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sending in your questions. Amazingly, I still have something to say, and so we're gonna just keep going. But yeah, honestly, what were highlights from this year? It's like, I don't even remember Q1 of last year. Of this year. Somebody was saying something that happened this year, and I was just astonished. The episode we did on the NetJets trip was fun. Loved our guests, Jenny, Val, and Teza, Teza and Cole. Those are always a lot of fun. You know, for me, there is so much value in just doing this every week and forcing myself to think about the industry, to think about y'all's questions, to think about what has happened in the last week, what I think is going to happen the next week or the next year. I think that I am, you know, I hear from y'all every once in a while that, you know, this has been helpful to you. I especially love when I hear that you're making money off of the things that we talk about in the show. But I feel like I'm a lot better at my job because I have to sit here every week and drink and try and piece together a few sentences that might be able to help you all run your businesses. So thank you for watching, because if you didn't, it wouldn't be worth doing this. And that means I would be worse at my job and less people would recognize me on the street, which is my end goal. It's just to be famous enough to probably be recognized a couple times a day, but not so famous that I can't do anything with my life. So we're not there yet. We're probably more like once or twice a week, but if we can move that next year to once or twice a day, that would be great for me. Here's the thing though, I'm not much of a holiday cheer, holiday decoration kind of guy. My lovely girlfriend has been hounding me for weeks to get a Christmas tree. It feels like I dodged the bullet and I don't have to get it. We're now like close enough to the season where I think I'm scot-free. So let's get into questions. I'm gonna get rid of all this shit. Okay, and we're gonna answer some questions. Okay, question number one. What have I learned in 2018? I have learned a lot. Much of it not applicable to Instagram. But just in growing this business, we didn't grow headcount that much this year, but we doubled the size of our business from a revenue perspective, which was amazing. We did it by only increasing the OpEx, so like our salaries and things like that, by 25%. So I personally feel like I learned a lot about the value of process and investing in things that you can't necessarily be sure are instantly going to have a payoff. You know, what that means for what y'all do is, you know, take it as it is, but we definitely, as a business, this year, took a kind of long view on what we wanted to do and the investments that we wanted to make. And those have certainly paid off, but again, those investments weren't things that paid off instantly, like, you know, advertising would, or something like that, where you spend $1, you get $2 back. So I think I certainly respect the long view, and on, you know, to that end, doing Drink with James and kind of watching Instagram and y'all's growth and struggles in general, you know, I think I continue to just be reinforced how difficult it is to build something meaningful, and to build something that grows kind of on its own and is consistently getting larger. You know, we've been doing Drink with James, how long now? 2.5 years?
Yeah.
We're 130 episodes in, 2.5 years in. It has been, you know, a decent amount of work, and a pretty slow burn, but every week we kind of feel the momentum picking up a little bit, and little by little. Certainly as a business, again, it's like, this year was our most like fun year. We were growing, things were going well. It felt like the bets that we made were paying off, but behind that year was 5 years of second guessing ourselves, of struggle, of barely making ends meet, running out of money, having to move money over from our personal accounts to cover employees' payrolls. Like, there was half a decade of shit, and we had a few months this year where things felt pretty good. So, you know, I continue to just think that success is mostly your ability to like stay in the game, and keep driving, be consistent, keep trying to evolve, keep trying to change, and push what you're doing. Think that things look a lot different looking back than they do in the moment. So I know a lot of y'all are probably sitting at the end of this year and feeling potentially disappointed with how much you grew your Instagram, or you didn't get as many brand deals as you wanted, or you meant to relaunch that blog and you didn't do it, or you only, you know, you launched a YouTube channel but you didn't stay consistent. And you know, you might be feeling frustrated by those things, but again, I encourage you to kind of take the long view, look at where you were 2-3 years ago, think about where you want to be 2-3 years from now, and don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a break for like a couple weeks, then go back to being hard on yourself in the new year. You know, gaining that insight came from living it, you know, from seeing it through, from dedicating yourself to something. I mean, I think there's such value in dedicating yourself fully to something for a long time. That's why I'm a big believer in routines. I actually, you know, for me, I know a lot of people, like, their dream is to travel a lot. That's not my dream at all, really. I like a routine. I like to wake up at 5:30. I like to exercise for an hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning. I like to come to work. I like to eat the same things. I like to do, you know, I think that routine, it's like it builds a muscle memory for work. And I think that working on something consistently, 10 hours a day for years and years and years, is infinitely valuable and so rewarding, and something that most people don't do. And I think that being in this business, you know, I don't have a choice. I can't just like go get another job. So even when things sucked, I had people counting on me. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out a way to stay positive. I had to figure out a way to keep making money so I could pay their salaries. And I had to be like the cheerleader for the business. There was no one there like telling me it was going to be okay. And so I think that you're forced to take that long view or you'll go fucking crazy, you know, because there's always people that are more successful than you. There's always things you could have done that you're not doing. And I don't think it's, you know, I don't think that you should never look at the minutia in the day-to-day and stress about, you know, what you're doing this week versus last week. But, you know, it is valuable. And especially if you're running that Instagram account, you're like, you know, the head of that snake. It's valuable to kind of take that longer view sometimes and look at what you've done. Because most people's lives year over year don't change significantly at all. You know, and in the history of work, you know, a lot of people would work, you know, every 5 years they might get a promotion, you know, but other than that, it's kind of just like flat, monotonous thing. And I think that our generation and you know, having access to the internet, it inspires you to say like, no, I don't want that. I want to change. I want every year, I want things to be very different. But again, I think there's value in putting your head down and working on something for, certainly for me, for half a decade. It's been really valuable. I'm stoked to see what it'll feel like 5 more years from now. And I'm more and more inspired by people who have, you know, been doing something for 20, 30 years, just to see the wealth of knowledge that they have. But again, I think living that allows you to have the long view. So. Question number 2. What are your thoughts on DMing your followers to get an idea of their tastes? I'll play both sides of the coin. One, I see a lot of influencers doing polls with their audience. Do you want iPhone photos or DSLR photos? Do you want fashion posts or lifestyle posts? I think that that's potentially interesting, but it's probably also too broad. If you're just DMing a single person to ask them what they want, you know, and you've got 100,000 followers, not a lot of insight is going to be pulled out of that one person. I don't believe that you should be running your Instagram account based off of a consensus view of what your viewers voted on that they want to see. They followed you for your vision. That's what they want to see. I think that we talked about it a few shows ago, something that Christy from Facebook, Instagram said, Christy Dash. She said that a lot of times when people's engagement falls, it's that they're overthinking what they're doing. There's no better example of overthinking what you're doing than constantly polling your audience to see what they want and reacting to that. Again, that's not why they followed you. People probably followed you because you were doing something they hadn't seen before, they didn't know that they wanted. You know, a lot of people when they hit follow, they probably didn't follow you because they sat down that morning and said, I feel like I really need to follow a new style influencer who has like a beachy but elevated vibe, who also, you know, doesn't live in LA. Whatever, I don't know, I'm pulling shit out of my ass. But what I'm saying is following you was probably serendipity, and they probably saw something and said, oh, that's interesting, I'll follow that. So again, I would go back to that as your North Star. It is important to speak to your audience at some points, but I don't think that Instagram polling is maybe the best way to do it, and I don't know if it's specific enough. So if you really want some insights on your following, go to Typeform. It's free to sign up. Create an actual survey, link to it, ask your followers, get some real data. It will be anonymous as well, so they probably feel more likely to be honest with you than they would in a poll. I think a lot of times when people ask questions, the bias is also pretty clear, and people just want to please other people, and so they answer it alongside that bias instead of giving you real answers. So I would question the usefulness of Instagram polling to help decide the direction of your account, but gathering data on what your following is interested in, what they like and don't like, can be useful. So it's a kind of yes and no answer to that question. So hopefully in some ways it's helpful. Question number 3 is, seems like posting in the hours Instagram recommends isn't working well. How do I know when to post? I assume when you say that Instagram is recommending, it means when it's saying your followers are on Instagram. One, this week we have year in review coming out. So if you are a member of 4, you should be getting a link with your year in review. It has your best time, the times that your posts perform best. It's got a bunch of information on your growth and your engagement and your color palette and all these different things. So if you haven't seen the email, you should be able to just go to your 4 profile / whatever it's going to be. Tim will put it up here, and you'll be able to get that year in review. So that'll be interesting. The other thing is with Instagram, just because your followers are online at a certain time doesn't mean that's the best time for you to post. I assume that the times people are online are pretty consistent across the country, and so every influencer is seeing that, and so it's also probably when a lot of posts are getting posted, which means there's more competition for eyeballs, which means maybe it's harder to get the algorithm to tick over in your way. That's total conjecture. I have no data to support that. But if you look at like advertising, primetime TV is the most expensive time to buy ads on television because most people are watching. Super Bowl, most expensive ad time in the year. Why? Because that's when the most eyeballs are on it. So if 9 a.m. on the EST is like the heaviest time that people are on Instagram, there's probably a lot of people posting at that time, which means it's harder for your post to get seen. So again, I always say, and I think that you guys are probably sick of hearing it, experiment, 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 and track. So if the times that Instagram lays out for you aren't working, try different times for a week, track it. The next week, try different times, track it, see what happens. It's impossible to get a 100% accurate assessment because different posts will perform differently based on the quality of that post and kind of how much people are responding to it. So unfortunately, with Instagram, without years of data, it is difficult to like narrow down what time of day, like what the impact of time of day is. Because if you think of, any statistics, you say like, what are my variables here? Time of day, what the post, content of the post, quality of the post, content of the caption, quality of the caption, okay? And there's probably many more. And when you have that many variables where you don't have control groups across it, you can't test for the one. So it is essentially impossible to test for the variable of time of day on Instagram because all these other variables exist and you can't narrow it down. But what we were hoping in giving you when your best engagement is over a year is that I do think those trends start to emerge, while looking at 2 photos back, a photo you posted at 9 and one you posted at 5 p.m. isn't valuable. Looking at 100 photos you posted at 9 a.m. and 100 you posted at 5 p.m. probably will tell a clearer picture. So take a look at that. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you share the Insta stories. That's it. That's it, guys. Something I wanted, something I was going to talk about, but I don't know where to put it. But it's just something I've been thinking about. I'll leave you with this. Something I've been thinking about. There is something I think and worry about, but might actually be good for us and all of you in the long term. There is a I feel in general, the world is turning against Facebook and Instagram as platforms. For years and years, it was mostly positive press. Facebook and Instagram haven't gotten a piece of positive press in 10 months. Media is turning against it. People are starting to ask themselves, is this helping me or hurting me? Is this something I want my children to be on or not? What is this doing to us, to our mental health? What is this doing to our attention spans? Another thing that I've been thinking about is the government going to break up Facebook? It's pretty clear that Facebook is a monopoly. They have the top 5 apps in the App Store are all owned by them. I think the government will eventually break up Facebook and Instagram and separate them potentially as 2 different companies. There is no competition. Nobody can compete with them. It's insane that we haven't had an app since Snapchat, which was founded 5 years ago, I think. Not a single app has been able to put a dent in Facebook or Instagram's growth or user base. They control the vast majority of the advertising dollars in the world now. I don't think the government is going to put up with it much longer, and I think that what all these negative stories are doing is setting up a situation where lawmakers can have a reason to go in and break this company up. So I don't know what that means for influencers. Again, Instagram will still exist. I just don't know that it will always be owned by Facebook. So that's something to think about. Diversify your platforms. Get onto other platforms. Build a blog. Build an email base. I know we talk a lot about Instagram, but it will die one day. And I hope that you guys take the time between, in the holidays when things are a little quieter, to think about how you are going to achieve autonomy and how you are going to build a business that will sustain you, not for a couple years, but for a couple decades. Thank you again for everyone who watched. We did 1.4 million minutes, 1.4 million minutes of watch time this year. That feels like a lot. And I would tell you guys to get a life, but I appreciate you watching. Jokes aside, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing, sending in questions. Again, I really especially love when I get emails that say, I put something to use and it worked. Because sometimes I'm just saying what I feel, and it's up to you guys to put it into play and see if it actually works. So keep sending that feedback, stuff that's worked, stuff that hasn't. We will get better together. Cheers.